What's up, traders? I am 7-Star Mike, and welcome to 2021. I'm a little late getting some content out to you guys because we haven't seen a lot of that monster hashtag 20 trades flow that we're really looking for, but there are some interesting things we see coming across the options flow, and I want to give you guys a few examples of what we're seeing and how we interpret that. So let's go take a look at the flow. Okay, so I'm going to start with RIOT. Someone in the chat room brought this to our attention, and I see what they were looking at: 149,000, 205,000, 141,000, 23. We can ignore that one, and 199,000. This was 630 to 632. So all of this happened within 2 minutes, and it's a combined $720,000. But here's why we're not going to follow this one, or it is a super spec play, spec meaning speculative, because of this. It expires next week, 129, but these are $40 calls when RIOT was trading at 26.87. So not a lot of time on it, and it's very far out of the money. So I'm guessing someone thinks something is going to happen here in the next week that's going to propel this stock big time. But it was trading at 26.87 when this flow came in, and you can see it dropped all day, and it's currently at 25.25. So these contracts are going to be down quite a bit, not a lot of time, very far out of the money. So even though it's $720,000 of flow, super speculative, not really something we're going to follow unless you want to throw some money in there that you are absolutely okay losing the entire amount. If it hits, it hits. If not, you didn't lose a whole lot that you were counting on. And that is just too far out of the money for us to really take a shot at. Next up is Skechers SKX. We got a lot of flow on this one. There was some chatter in the room about it. If you look at the dollar amounts, they're pretty small. There's 10,000, there's 30,000, there's some 40,000s, 18,000s. Not a lot that we see going into it at any given point, but this is only one page of it. If I scroll up, you can see more and more and more. The only one that had any kind of significance was this 131,000. So outside of that, all the dollar amounts were pretty low, but combined, this is all $920,000 of flow. So we start kind of noticing things around that $1 million mark. This is just under it. This is for 219, $43 calls when Skechers is trading upper 36s. So a little bit out of the money. There's some time for it to move, and this one has $920,000 of combined flow. Next up is Lyft, L-Y-F-T, and what I love about this one is a perfect example of why we love live data. So we see Lyft coming in early in the morning. Remember, I'm on the West Coast, so 6:38 is 8 minutes after the bell rings. So we start seeing some flow come in, little dollar amounts, nothing huge on here, but it adds up to a combined $1.168 million. So they did hit this one quite a bit. You can see there's some bigger ones coming in here. But what's nice about this is we can see all this coming in live, and we can get into this based on the live data. Look at the chart. You see this big spike right here. Guess what happened right there? That was a CNBC call out. So we're in earlier in the day. We're basically watching the flow, taking the trade there. It's climbing, it's climbing. It gets called out on CNBC, and boom, it pops. Now, my trade style is to sell into those spikes. So whenever we're in a trade based on flow early in the day, if it's called out on CNBC and gets a big spike like this, I'm closing the position based on that. And sometimes it runs afterwards. Oftentimes we'll see that it does give a lot of that back, which it exactly did that same thing here. It's up a little bit in after hours maybe, but still not quite the effect that you're going to get if you sell up in here. Now, this is 122. So there were a few more days on this, but when I see that big spike like that, I just like to lock those gains in right then and there. We saw some flow on GM today. GM had, again, little dollar amounts, but it starts to add up. We can scroll up. There's even more of it. Nothing drastic on any single amount here, but all said and done, this is $950,000 of flow. This is expiring this week, $54 calls. Not one of those hashtag 20s by any means, but you can see early on it had that dip and then it started taking off. It did pull back a little bit and then it climbed again, and it's up after hours. So this is something expiring this week for $950,000 worth of flow, right at the money here. It was a little bit out of the money right at the opening bell. about 50 cents out of the money. It went in the money and then climbed, and it's up even more after hours. So something like that we might take a shot at. Again, definitely not hashtag 20 type of flow, but a combined $950,000 at the money expiring in a few days. That's something that if you like the flow, if you like the chart, worth taking a shot at. Now, here's one that was called out in the room by some members that were asking, what do I think about this? This is 521 $25 puts on PLTR. Now, if you look at the dollar amounts, 243, 100, 414, 83, 260, 142, all said and done, this is $1.25 million. So that caught their attention because I usually teach we're looking for that $1 million mark of flow and above. So when this has 1.25 million, people are getting excited saying, hey, Mike, what do you think about these puts? So I want to point out that in Black Box, you guys do not trade alone. I am 7-star Mike _mod on the Black Box platform. And so someone was asking about that, and I wanted to put a chart in here as to why I don't like this flow, even though it's $1.25 million. I'm going to pop the chart out here to make it easier for you to see. I've got this red line, which is a downtrend here, which a few days ago we broke above that level. Then I've got this green line here, which is an uptrend that we've been on in the last few days, and it's holding that uptrend. We actually came down to that trend and bounced up. It wasn't super strong off that trend, but it's still holding this uptrend. So because we have this longer term downtrend that was broken to the upside and the shorter term uptrend that held as support, I'm not going to be entering any kind of a put position. So even though we see over $1 million in put flow, that's not going to grab my attention because the chart didn't line up for it. Now, we don't normally play puts based on flow. We'll trade puts all day long if we need to, if the market dictates, but generally not based on flow. And when we talk about hashtag 20, we will never have put flow in hashtag 20. So even though this is 1.25 million, which is one of those things we point out we look for, because it was puts and because the chart didn't line up for me, this is not something that's going to grab my attention. Now next up, I have LVS, and I have this one on historical for a reason. I want to show you guys Friday's flow. From the purple down, this is Friday's flow, 115. Friday, they had $2.5 million into this $319.55 call. And after we got into it, it actually dropped. So I was getting messages from people saying, hey, we just got into the trade. It's down already. What do you think we should do? And when I see flow like this, there's no decision whatsoever. There was no consideration of closing this out. It's $2.5 million. There's 2 months of time on it. And it was basically at the money when they got into this. So if it drops the same day, I'm not even looking at it. I couldn't care less if it's up, if it's down. We have 2 months of time. It's at the money, $2.5 million of flow behind it. I'm not even stressed or considering what to do with it. Now today, 119 from the white flow up top, this is all today. They added $2.27 million. So between Friday and today, we have a combined $5 million of flow for LVS 319.55 calls. So as much as this was down after we got into the trade, it's green now. Not by a whole lot, but it's green. So you had to sit through this little downturn here. As it was dropping, there was more flow coming into it, and then look at the recovery that it made the rest of the day. It did give a little bit back, but it looks like it's back up in after hours. This one was down right after we got in, but I didn't care about that because I had the backing of $2.5 million of flow. It was dropping earlier today. Didn't care about that because I've got the backing of another 2.27 million coming into it. And by the end of the day, it recovered, and it is currently a green trade for us. Here we go. Let's take a look at ATVI. This is what caught our attention here. This is a $990,000 above the ask sweep. Right before that, we had $145,000. That was followed up with a block trade on the ask for $329,000. So about $1.5 million of ATVI. These are the 319.9250 calls. It was trading at 92.56, so right at the money. 2 months of time on it with $1.5 million into it. And if you look at what the chart did throughout the day, it was on a little bit of a climb, gave some back, and then it just slowly started creeping up the whole day. There's some crazy after hours action here, but this is a trade that has 2 months of time on it. It's at the money. right now after hours, it's up. So we're doing pretty good on this one. We're going to hang out with this one for a little bit. We're going to follow that $1.5 million and just see what this trade can do for us. And that's just following the flow. So there's a few examples of some of the stuff we see come across the scanner and how we interpret those. As always, if you need access to a scanner like this, click the link in the description below. That will give you 20% off your first month. And if you do decide to join us, send me a message. I will personally walk you through the setup and make sure you know exactly what we're looking at, how it works, why it works, and get you on the path to profits. As always, see you on the charts.